when you start looking at like what the inheritance tax implicates.
I would say it's kind of disappointing, but
Have me sit down and talk to me, not just my parents.
Finding the balance of how to act.
yeah, second episode.
Brill, we're running.
Yeah.
So as we were just discussing, I think it's important that when we talk about leadership, we start with the politicians that we see as leaders today. They are the figureheads that steer our country. So one of the big questions raised recently is the lack of diversity in their pedigree. We were talking about this earlier. But we look at the World Economic Forum's Young Global Leaders and the Fabian Society. This is, I mean, very, very, it's a revered list of alumni, like the World Economic Forum's Young Global Leaders, just to list off a couple. Peter Thiel, I mean, that's a massive player now in the AI race. Sam Altman, Mark Zuckerberg, Pete Buttigieg, the U.S. Secretary of Transportation. Elon Musk is in that list. We have David Cameron, who's now, of course, Lord Cameron. Ed Miliband, who's leading the British energy question. Yeah. I mean, he has massive involvement in. I mean,
are we happy for those to lead us, or?
Well, and this is where I think like looking into their background is super important, because as we saw in the most recent election in the UK, it doesn't matter what's on their manifesto, right?
Yeah.
Many things were put within Labour's manifesto, which they then turned around and ignored completely. They did a massive U-turn. And this is where I think like their pedigree has a massive role to play, because what's influencing them? The Fabian Society in particular I wanted to discuss, because as we've discussed outside the podcast, my own desire to go into the space industry is one to provide positive solutions to problems which will arise later on. We've already discussed that the idea of overpopulation at the moment is not a problem. Like this,
it's actually the reverse is underpopulation for many countries like Japan.
Birth rate declines across the West are like dramatic, especially within Western like communities, the native Western peoples, Americans, the Brits, the French. There are very few companies posting like replacement birth rates.
I'll put in a stat. It's 50% of the sperm count is down in the last 50 years.
That's insane.
Also, it just comes from, like, when I put that out, like, people ask why, what do you think that's due to? It's a slight segue, but I think it's important for everyone to know. It's just daily life habits. And it comes to things just as stupid as polyester underwear.
Yeah.
They've even done studies on dogs where they give them polyester underwear for an extended length of time. They found a decrease of sperm count from these dogs. Just simple stuff like that. So
there's like actual correlation, like proved correlation.
Yeah. I mean, and it has to be environmental stimuli, because
they're
even finding like microplastics, I think, could be wrong in sperm and things like that. Nanoplastics and all these sort of things. Yeah, because it tanks testosterone, it tanks all these sort of things. So,
and you see like massive, like the food industry. This is a massive one, because what you ingest, like they say, you are what you eat. Mm-hmm. And that is literally true insofar as if you're not making sure that you are eating fresh, unprocessed food, you are not giving your body the necessary nutrients to survive, let alone thrive. Like we're at a place where the food industry is massively corporatized, and we're attacking farmers in the West. Like the UK Labour government's recent inheritance tax that they've levied against farmers. I mean, they've taken away their exemption, their relief from that. That is going to be crippling to UK farmers. It's not something that big corporations need to worry about. So they can come and buy the land that the farmers need to sell to pay for that inheritance tax. Yeah. But to give you an idea, like farmers they're not cash rich. They might be asset rich insofar as they have a lot of land. They have the machinery necessary to complete their tasks and their vocation. But these people, on average, earn like, I think the average wage is something like 40,000 a year.
Yeah.
And that's if they're doing well. And like the minimum viable farm, commercially viable farm, is something like 300 acres. And when you start looking at like what the inheritance tax implicates, these people are going to be paying like a substantial portion of that inheritance tax with money they don't have. They cannot meet that, so they will need to sell their land. Which, like you say, this is a massive problem for replacement birth rates. Like, we need to be thinking about how we progress as a species, not just in terms of technology and in terms of society, but in terms of actually how we survive. And this brings us back to the anti-humanism point, which is like the Fabian society, which I've already mentioned, being another one of these massive influences and a unilateral influence over British politics, especially now. Like, the members of the Fabian Society at the moment include Keir Starmer, Tony Blair, who's still, the Blair Institute is very influential, Sadiq Khan. The Fabian Institute comes from, founded back early 1900s, I believe, by neo-Malthusians. And the Malthusian model basically states that food supply increase is very linear, whereas population increase is exponential. So there comes a crisis point where population breaches the food supply, and at that point, we have a food crisis. Now, obviously, this model is outdated massively, but the neo-Malthusians who founded the Fabian Society, including George Bernard Shaw and I think it's Annie Besant. Yeah, that's it. George Bernard Shaw was very famous for what he said in terms of eugenics. Mm-hmm. But the Fabian Society, what it pushed for, this kind of neo-Malthusian economic policy, was more state intervention in terms of selective breeding of humans, including getting rid of those who were, divergent from their genetic desires, which is an incredible thought. And the fact that they turned around and they said, like, we need to be selectively breeding to continue our species, like to progress our species, because otherwise we will hit a critical point where the Earth cannot sustain the population. Yeah. This relates to like that zero-sum model, mm-hmm. where we have finite resources to go around. And this is where I think space comes into it, because if we can get off planet, like, it's true, there are finite resources on Earth, but we live in a universe that is expanding. And if we frame it like that, and if we frame the idea of humanity as an interplanetary species and hopefully one day an interstellar species, then we'll be able to turn around and provide more than enough, an abundance for humans, rather than looking at humans as a scourge.
So going back to your original points, the list that you provided, was like Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, I think Zuck was there, Sam Altman, So first of all, we have to decide what values, what core values are we looking into, like, for founders or leaders who are leading like the AI or tech revolution. But at the same time, those aren't really politicians or legislators.
No.
So the question will be, who's the actual leader of like the whole thing? Is it Keir Starmer or those who seemingly are in power? Or is it like the tech leaders who have infinite amount of resources and are independent enough?
I think we need to be looking at who's funding these leaders. We need to be looking at where the money is, and in this regard, these tech billionaires, and more than that, the bankers that sit behind a lot of this money.
Yeah,
they exercise a huge amount of influence on think tanks, including the World Economic Forum, including the Fabian Society. So they're exercising influence on this shared unilateral pedigree for our leaders. And with that in mind, I think what we need to be wary of, and what we'll discuss more in terms of like their role and their responsibility, tech leaders' roles and responsibilities, we need to be aware of what their influences are so that we're able to make informed decisions on who we vote for. Because if we don't know who's funding the people that we're voting for, if we don't know what their pedigree is, then they can say what they like.
But when you say like there's always a U-turn, then how can we trust people when we just vote for them and then just they ignore all the things that they said? I mean, the same thing happened with President Trump, but yeah.
What do you think, Daniel?
What do you think, Daniel?
Yeah, there are a few things I want to say. It's going to be hard. I was listening to something earlier, and I've been thinking about this topic for a long time. It's about democracy and fairness and things like that. Throughout the whole of nature, not just humans, but animal nature, there's never really fairness. We do not get to decide how much IQ that we have. We do not get to decide who our family are. I could be born to the king, or I could be born I could be born to the throne. I could be born to poverty, right? So there is no fairness in that. But then we try to cover this in democracy, and we vote for our leaders, and we vote for these people. But I do not think that is the case. Some people say that we put our voluntary votes in just the box, the fun box that they have a look at, they open, they go, cool, and they just keep rolling with their plan, even though if we vote for one person.
So you mean like there's no actual democracy or power
not
behind
really
the voting?
No, even there was one. It was a famous Italian, sort of like political theorist, was trying to look at. His name was like Michel, or I know it sounds French, but he's Italian. He wrote the Machiavellians. It's a book, and he was trying to identify and really see these like mechanisms of politics and how it actually works. Where does the power really lie? And in most organizations and corporations, whatever, there's always going to be this hierarchy of power. It's just how it's going to be. There's never going to be decentralized power. Yes, we are open to question that now, but maybe in terms of how the nature of politics works, there's always going to be like this inner circle of elites that are going to dictate the majority of the people.
And
Like
let's be clear that this isn't at all tinfoil hat conspiracy. What we're referring to at the moment is, I think, something that we need to be really grateful to the internet for. Sometimes it can feel like we live in a very dark time because we are so aware of our lack of agency now. But it's because we're so aware of what's going on in the world. And that information and knowledge is what you can find online. Exactly. And what you're talking about in terms of like shadow governance, shadow influence, if we just think about like a corporation's hierarchy, you look at a corporation and you see the owner and you see the CEO, and these people provide leadership and direction to a corporation. But unless you go looking, what you don't realize is they themselves are elected to these positions by the board of directors.
Who are you referring to when you say they?
The C-level executives.
Okay.
So C-level executives are elected by the board of directors. Yeah. And the board of directors are voted on by those who hold shares in the company. And this brings us on to a really interesting point, because in the States, thanks to legislation regarding index funds, mutual funds, and ETFs, exchange-traded funds, for those of you who don't do a lot of stock market research, companies like BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street is pretty much BlackRock, and all the other large institutional holders I say the top 25 institutional holders hold 82, I believe, 82% of the voting power of the top 100 companies in the S&P 500.
Yeah.
So when someone turns around and says, oh, like BlackRock is in control of everything because they have so much money, they're worth so much money, they manage so much money. The important distinction is that is not our money because we're not American citizens, but that's the money of American pensions. Right, they manage a lot of American pensions and other assets.
Yeah.
But the way that the American system is formulated, those assets, though it's not BlackRock's, give BlackRock and Vanguard voting power because they're the ones who get to exercise the voting rights for the shares that they hold in these companies through index funds, exchange traded funds, and mutual funds.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, fire.
Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street, like combined, don't have even a tenth of the world's wealth.
Yeah.
But you know, the thing is that wealth is subjective, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
People will define what wealth is. Like you say, they were just printing money in the U.S.
Yep.
But let's think about it. The rest of the things that we have, like what do the other countries do? They agree that, okay, gold is what backs up our money. U.S. said, okay, oil is what backs up our money. So hence the petrodollar in Saudi Arabia. So what I'm saying is that BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street might not have the most money in the world.
No.
But money is infinite, basically. But what isn't infinite is power.
Yeah.
Power is not infinite. When a lot of people get power, everyone loses power.
Yeah, yeah.
So what they have is power and not money in particular.
And that power is exercised through these voting rights, right? So
Yeah.
BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street hold between those three 42% of the voting power for the S&P 500, the top 100 companies.
What do we
42%. So a quick shout out to Ian Carroll for these figures. He's done an amazing job of, this is data from back in 2024. So their positions might have changed and the diversity of these institutional holders might have changed since. But what the picture that he paints is the immense control that these institutional investors have over electing board members.
Yeah.
Because if they're electing board members and these board members are then electing the C-level executives, then actually what's going on is BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, and the other institutional holders are shaping who is leading these companies. And if they're shaping who's leading, then they're actually shaping the direction that all these gigantic companies are going in. And like Perry said, there's a finite amount of power, and they wield that. So, and this is where when we talk about politicians and their ability to make decisions for themselves, if they're reliant on their economy, then they are reliant to a degree on the market that they have. And if the market is completely controlled in terms of voting and in terms of like direction, then they have got to contend with very, very powerful and immensely wealthy corporations and the directions that they have been given, right?
So,
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
very interesting. But
it's. So I wanted to get to this point with earlier. It's not just the case of what we think when we vote and when we decide who gets to lead us. Is look at their value system, look at their skills, whatever, and I like this guy. You know what?
Yeah.
I'll click the button or whatever. I put the tick there. No. If they're holding like 42% of the decisions and things like that, we don't have much power at all, actually. So
what's the solution?
Exactly.
Though?
What do we think? Of course, I'm not expecting you to hold the solution, but what do you think,
Yeah,
guys?
big question. I think there are a couple ways to go, but it relies on individual accountability and responsibility. All these big corporations, although they're owned, I say owned by BlackRock, obviously we're talking about they're actually owned by the American public because that's the money of the American public, so it's being invested through BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, etc. They are controlled through voting rights by these people. We still have the power as consumers to not support these big businesses. And of course, a lot of expenditure can be given through the government and whatnot. But I think what we need to do as a peoples is turn around and start questioning our financial decisions. Because we live in the system, absolutely. And I know many of my many close friends that I have a great deal of respect for have come to me and said, like, you know, I've put my money in a Vanguard fund because the returns that it's going to give me are XYZ over the next 20 years. And although I don't agree with their ethical direction or frankly, the social direction that they are pushing, I've got to look after number one. That's true, but the problem with doing that in our current position is by going and investing with Vanguard or by going and buying from Nestle or by going and supporting these businesses, you're just offloading the problem to the next generation. You're giving them more time to consolidate power. Which means as we push it further and further down the line, as each generation kind of offloads responsibility for facing this problem and really facing it head on, we are scuppering our future generation's ability to actually then go and make a difference.
So you think we still have individual power to change the direction?
We have power to shape our own lives. And if everyone takes responsibility for shaping their own lives, then we can come together as a people, as long as we have a shared core belief structure. And that doesn't need to be religious. That can just be like the innate dignity of the human life, the importance of preserving human life. That as long as we have a shared, agreed foundation, then we can come together from many differing walks of life with very different views. And we can say, right, we don't agree on everything.
Yeah.
But what we do agree on is we believe that humanity is a real gift. We are an incredible species, capable of great evil, but capable also of great good.
But when was the last time that actually happened? Like, we decided that, yes, we are having a shared value for humanity, so let's do something together. I think it hasn't happened like for the last century, I guess.
Well, AGI?
No,
because people are too selfish. Like in each scenario, we have to be the way that you describe it is too ideal to be true. It's like a utopian.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because people have their own like advantages and preferences in each scenario. So there's no truth. There is only like this question of asking who's going to have benefit here.
I do think like we agree that reality isn't subjective. It's not a relativist concept. Reality in terms of like the syntax of the universe, the order that the universe has, is like it follows laws.
Yeah.
It follows a structure. There is truth. And I don't think it's necessarily I definitely think it's an ideal vision, but I don't think it's impossible, because talking about like a shared core fundamental belief in the dignity of life, there might be outliers that think that's a terrible, like humanity is actually a scourge. I mean, David Attenborough even commented in one of the programs recently that, you know, we're a massive problem for the planet. The climate crisis and overpopulation, like this is what's being fed to our kids, right? Because these programs are beautiful programs. Like Planet Earth is phenomenal. I remember watching that as a kid. I loved that stuff. But this, I mean, if that's what your kid is hearing, then how is your kid meant to grow up with any semblance of like self-respect and dignity if they've been told, actually, you're the problem? Like, we are a problem for this planet. I think that having a very basic fundamental belief that's shared by the vast majority, again, not everyone, isn't a utopia. I think, though, what it requires is, like we've seen recently with the big explosion in the podcast world, people to start thinking for themselves and not listening to those who are trying to divide us. Because we're very divided at the moment. And we don't need to agree on much to come together. Like, you look at the Catholic Church is a great example. Like, the Catholic Church has a core fundamental belief in the Bible, in Jesus Christ, and in the Catechism. And from there, everyone who is Catholic has their own lives. Mm-hmm. It's not impossible for people to go, right, we agree on this one thing. And at the moment, this is the clear and present danger that we face as a species. So we'll come together, we'll sort this out. We don't agree on everything. And we will argue and debate the things that we don't agree on. But we can agree that this particular thing is a problem. Eugenics, as an example.
How can we initiate that, though, like now?
By talking.
Narratives.
By just talking about it?
Narratives.
I don't think so. We need something more like in action.
Well, we need a visionary leader.
Yes.
We absolutely do. But the best way that we are going to provide the fertile ground for a visionary leader to actually come forward and work to fulfill like a solution for our species is by having these conversations. Because it's by bringing up future generations to think for themselves that we'll be able to have a society filled with individuals who are able to like compute the idea of their own limits and the importance for their survival. Otherwise, we just live in a world of comfort and complacency. And if we just go with the narratives that are provided, sure, it's nice and easy at the moment. But like relying on the government it's never. History has told us that people do evil things when they have a lot of power. Power corrupts. And when you look at like the shadow functions that basically operate outside of the visible power structures, intelligence agencies is a very important example. We see that what's necessary and what's required is people to exercise critical thinking and to not be afraid to discuss, to share concerns. Yeah. Because that's a big one, like cancel culture.
That's nuts.
I mean, Daniel, you're studying philosophy, so I would be really interested to hear your thoughts on how leadership is colored by cancel culture and by unified media. Because, I mean, the media in the States, again, another good example of kind of the exercise influenced. BlackRock and Vanguard and other institutional holders hold the majority of the shares in the media in the States. Like the big media companies, these institutional holders shape the narrative because these are the people who elect the board of directors, who then proceed to elect and like hire the C-level executives, who then do the day-to-day running. So I'm interested to know how you think such a lack of variance in narrative and then the attack on freedom of speech will shape leadership in society in years to come.
Yeah, well, critical thinking, it's sort of a term that we just throw around. Like, I didn't really understand what critical thinking really was. Is it like, oh, this is a critical time? What does this actually mean? But it's really about seeing sort of, different perspectives of the thing. Does this really work? You know, prod the idea, poke it. Let's find different ideas and about a specific thing and try and approach it in different ways. But the thing is with our media, it only feeds us one thread and one idea, and if we don't agree with it, sorry, but you're going to be cancelled.
Yeah.
So that really hinders critical thinking, because one way to increase critical thinking is to do critical thinking and read many sources for one thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we do this in our education. Well, we should do more of this in our education. I didn't really think it was that useful. It sort of just came. Like, you read many things and then you apply, and then you just sort of apply, oh, this thought experiment cancels this thing out. Oh, okay. And then you start to do this in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then when you actually do it on media, no, you can't do that. I'm sorry. No, you're going to be cancelled.
the science is settled.
Yeah. So, and it's, that's a good point. A lot of the things, maybe in the scientific field as well, it is also governed by people with power up in the scientific sort of hierarchies, whatever it is, and they don't want these certain paradigm shifts, and if it happens, you're going to be cancelled. So really, freedom of speech is so important. One person that I really stand by, after listening to his podcast and Lex Friedman, I really recommend it, as Pavel Durov. Pavel Durov.
The Telegram CEO.
I've not
Telegram
watched that
man.
yet.
That
I must.
This
Yeah.
guy he's really on it for like freedom of speech, because it's something from what I interpret, it's something really deep down in the human condition.
Yeah.
The freedom of speech, they give us that right. We can say whatever we want. It's our narrative, our views, and that's how we're going to spread information, like truly unfiltered. Unfiltered information for the good and for the worse. And hopefully, if we train people from young, that everyone's going to be good. Because, I mean, we all know that if a homeless person, let's say a homeless person wins, or a person that's reckless, let's say, a person that's reckless wins $1 million, and someone that's really clever and good with the money wins $1 million, we know that the person that's reckless is gonna lose it in, let's say, I don't know, a month, and the person's gonna double, triple that $1 million.
I think he's also advocating the decentralized currency as well with
Yeah.
Telegram.
Yeah, for sure.
So it comes down. I think freedom of speech is important. It is a double-edged sword, but if we train people from young through education how to use things correctly and just to have better people, like I feel like that's really, I mean, I study philosophy and I think that's helped with just morality and things like that. Yeah, sure, it really like screws with your brain and makes you overthink things, or it does for me, but it actually just made me a better person. Like, just about simple stuff.
Yeah.
Just like how to communicate better. Actually, like to treat the person in front of you like a human.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
So freedom of speech is super important. I do not want to really hinder people from the ability to think critically about a problem. It's crippling.
Yeah, for sure.
Can I add something to that? Okay, I think what you're saying, I agree with most of what you're saying, and I'm thinking the only way that society will be, I don't know, fixed somehow, is through grinding. Like everything else basically takes time. There is no shortcut for nothing. So if we have that fertile ground that you said, we talk, and we make everyone aware as much as we can. It doesn't throw them what do you call it?
Like a shortcut, or
No. It doesn't change the power structure itself, but it shakes the grounds.
yeah.
So what I'm thinking is that in that situation, if we educate our children, not our children, I mean like the young people, if young people are already waking up to this, they know that they should go and learn. they can't rely on one source, two source, three source. They have to actively go on and learn, and this is a lifetime thing. So, for example, a lot. I would argue that if we from childhood would have learned a lot of Jung's theories about self, shadow self, a lot of self works, and to better ourselves, it would have been so much easier. Like, it's just a really, really simple way to make better person.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a really difficult ask because I've been thinking about this a lot. A lot of society is functioning through a fracturing of their psychology, which is just super. And I can see it myself. I can see it in my in family, in other people's family, and it's a really difficult thing. Maybe the fracturing is good, maybe it's not. But yeah, if we can equip people with the skills on how to deal with it and how to just be aware of it, then I think we'll have a better society. It doesn't matter what tools that they have. Hopefully they'll use it better, because that's what ultimately technology is. Really, it's the tools that can help.
I think there's only
society.
one way to fix this, because we are always talking about these things and we kind of don't have any solution. We say, yeah, we talk about it to advocate for critical thinking, but the only way to actually take the lead as individuals is to create something.
Yeah, absolutely.
And add value to society.
Build a family.
Start with that, yeah. Something fundamental as that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Foundational, fundamental things. Build a family and educate your kids.
Yeah.
Like what you're saying. And actually, Arshia, I wanted to bring a question over to you, because this really, Perry, what you said, what we've spoken about so far is how we create that fertile field, right? A society that is ready to take accountability for itself, a civilization, really, a species that is ready to progress. Mm-hmm. That's kind of that fertile plane that we're talking about. We're talking about educating our children properly to think analytically, to consider, to be skeptical about what they're told, to hear what they're told and then go, right, that sounds really interesting. I'm going to go and verify that. I'm going to go research that, because a fact checker is also funded. You can't rely on just one person or ChatGPT or Grok or whatever it is that you're using to provide knowledge. Yeah. You cannot rely on that one stream to provide you with truth. So, Arshia, the leaders of tomorrow, the tech billionaires, the tech leaders, because the tech is really what's leading our markets at the moment, especially in the States, massive funding in AI, etc. To harness this kind of fertile plane of people who are waking up and ready to follow and ready to take accountability, what do you think is required of the leaders in business today, tech leaders especially, to ensure that they're able to provide that vision that the people can unify behind?
In my opinion, tech leaders today, unfortunately, because I look up to most of them, they just want to win the race and they only think about themselves, including all of them. Maybe Elon is a bit different, because he thinks long term, but at the same time, if you are having a company and you are in a race that has a high speed, you have to have some sort of resources and power to just win the game without caring about people or individuals at the same time. So I would say the solution would be starting with the educational system to tell kids, hey, you need to create things which will eventually add values to society. Meaning, people are going to hate me for this, but startups are a great example of doing this.
I don't hate you for that.
No, because I always talk about startups, and people say why. Because startup is a great example of some individuals who are visionary and don't have enough resources, but they have good reasons hopefully, to do good things for humanity. And I was actually talking to someone today from Future Wars, Alex. Future Wars, for audience who don't know, is a startup accelerator in Southampton University. He was telling me the best thing to do is try to not getting funding from people in power.
Yeah.
Try to build something and have revenue and customers yourself. So try to stay independent. If you want to scale your business, yes, you can take funding. But otherwise, if you don't need money, because we have enough technology to be able to create something useful for people who are going to be like potential customers. And that could actually be the way that we push critical thinking in a way that is in action rather than just talking about it. Regarding the tech leaders, I would say it's kind of disappointing, but at the same time, some of them are giving opportunities to people to, I mean, big corps like NVIDIA is still a great example for people to work there because they have strong values. But I don't think we should rely on big corps or tech leaders at the moment. At least those who are not visionary.
No.
Most of them are strategic at the moment. That's my opinion.
And I think, like, moving forwards, though, what we've discussed is the ability to build it like a legacy.
Yeah.
More than just build your own power base and wealth. And I mean, we're talking about the race. You mentioned the race. And sure, AI is a race. But more than that, like what Musk is developing with Neuralink, it's like this is actually transhumanism.
Yeah.
And when we hit that point, whoever's controlling the cybernetics that we are then chipping will have such absolute control. It's a beggar's belief at the moment. But the idea of building something, not for the sake of just generating money, not for the goal of money or power, but for the goal of the betterment of humanity. Mm-hmm. Like, really give thought into the product, because you can do so much good.
Good, yeah.
Or you can do so much evil. And what you're talking about, like funding.
Yeah.
If you need the funding, then do your research. Find people who have means who aren't aligned with everyone else at the moment.
Yeah.
I say everyone else. I mean these bigger power structures. Don't go for the easy route. Don't go for the easy funding, because there are people out there that will share your goals, share your vision. And working with them is honing that vision, right?
Yeah.
You're not compromising the vision. You're actually accelerating it. And this is where, like, the money can compromise you. Mm-hmm. So you need to have your line in the sand, I guess.
Yeah, try to stay independent as possible.
I'd like to add some philosophy into this.
Please.
Because I think it's just so relevant. I'm thinking maybe, Julian, you would know The Republic.
Yes.
Plato.
Yes.
I mean, you just can't run away from Plato. He's just in everything, and he likes to make this soul city analogy, which is pretty much like if you have like a virtuous soul, or like if you like prioritize justice in the soul, and like if you prioritize virtue, then you're going to be a better person, okay? A better person, and then get all these better people, and that's going to make the city a better city. So it's literally like the city is a reflection of the soul, and the soul is going to be like a reflection of the city.
So relevant.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Complete reflection, and it starts with like a startup.
Yeah.
If the values within a startup are crap, how can you expect them to have a good vision? Like, come on, guys. Like,
or a good product.
Yeah. Okay, maybe Elon Musk, slight exception, because he puts the goal like in front of the people. Like, he just burns them out, whatever. But that's why he gets absolutely ridiculous, like just results. Like, I've got something here. So One analysis found Tesla's executive churn under Musk was 44% in a 9-month period, far above the 9% average at peer companies.
Yeah.
So he's like 4 or 5 times in more productive than other companies. Crazy, but burns out people. Another thing is the culture in Microsoft. Before they were. They had this know it all culture. So like sort of arrogant, like I know I can do it, I know it all. But then when they changed to a learn it all culture, this growth mindset actually improved innovation and sort of more compassion and
humbler.
Yeah, humbler.
It's culture is very important within the big corps for sure.
Yeah.
Daniel, on what you said about the soul, we were talking about taking individual responsibility, and I mean, Arshia said, create. The important thing is that we as individuals create, we add value to society. And the two things tie in so beautifully because when you create a family, like what you say about the city being a reflection of the soul, it's such an immense responsibility being a parent. And I do think that parenting in recent years, thanks to many different factors. I won't go into all of them right now. That's a whole different topic. But parenting has come under a lot of attack. The nuclear family has come under serious attack. Raising a family, that's you planting the seeds for civilization. And doing a good job of that and educating your kids to always question, always be learning and be humble. You talk about the city being a reflection of the soul. Civilization will be a reflection of the way that we parent. And it's incredible, but that's a very real, tangible impact. Yeah. No, I think that's something that we need to really remember because otherwise, if we damage our children, then we damage civilization, let alone the massive crime which it is to, not be parenting your kids and not be showing them the love that they need to flourish. But
yeah, just simple things like, I'll just throw this in quickly. When I went, my first experience of a university was not here in Southampton. I went to Loughborough, with my friend, and I was at the dining hall, and it struck me because I was like, oh, this is actually what it feels like. This is the next generation. This is the next working class. Yeah. These are the next people that are going to have kids. And I could see, no offense, but like it's either they're in really good shape because Loughborough's like the best one of the best universities in England for sport, or they're just completely out of shape. But all of them in that room was pretty much eating crap, like from the canteen. I'm sorry, but it's just how it is. Like, yes, there are reasons because they need to cut costs. It is hard to feed like 500 people, but
careful about table shaking.
It's simple things like that. It's important just to bring our civilization up.
I mean, that's dedication. Parenting, parents can actually try to tell their kids the core values they should stand up for, and that's one of them. Like,
personally, I was very rebellious, so I remember if my parents wouldn't have argued with me, didn't have me sit down and talk to me, not just my parents, like a lot of my family, I wouldn't be able to study or be able to do anything, basically, because the world is really crazy. Like, the things that children are exposed to are not okay. No. Definitely not okay. So, and it's not their fault. The family needs to help, of course.
Yeah, so family.
Yeah,
so
family.
After shenanigans with cameras. The importance of parenting. You said off camera we were talking about the cutoff.
Yeah, I think there was a timeline. You should make your own decisions if you're over 18. Or you have to take risks for making those decisions as well.
Yeah.
Also, sometimes you may know more than someone like your parents at some point, which is okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Be respectful, listen to them, but you have to like make your own decisions at some point.
It's a slippery slope again.
Yeah.
Just like just because you're 18 doesn't mean you are sort of like ready to make decisions as well. There are some people that are 50 and they can't. They have really bad judgment, so they can't make good decisions. But I would say like 18 is a good starting point.
Yeah, even if you're not ready, just try to make decisions. You make mistakes, but you actually learn and try to, like, you know how to be responsible of your actions, which is, I think, a good value to have.
Yeah, and make the small decisions meaningful. I think that's really important because you can't expect to make good decisions when it comes to big things if your entire life you've made poor decisions regarding small things. I think that's a fallacy that many people think like, oh, it's fine. Like this action is not a big deal because like I know for sure if it was, I don't know, like maybe a gateway drug as an example.
Yeah.
If you think, oh, you know, it's just this once, just this one time.
Those small actions.
It's those small actions which open you up to bigger actions later down the line. Like
it's like the accumulation of all these.
The slippery slope that Daniel's mentioned. Like I think it's super important that you take opportunities to make take decisions you need to make as opportunities to make good ones and seek counsel. If you need it, seek counsel. But at the same time, don't let other people then make those decisions for you because if something goes wrong, then you know that's potential to ruin a relationship.
Yeah,
Don't
no
blame
one
others.
no one knows your situation better than yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what I wanted to add is that you have to have a sort of freedom before 18 if you want to grow up, so to gain some experience and then seek for advice. Like if you have like no experience and you're listening to your elders and you still think, okay, I have critical thinking, that doesn't work. You have to go out there, do it, and see who you are, and then reflect and get help from the other people. Like you have to learn to do that from a young age.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
A question for the floor. Daniel raised earlier the innate desire for freedom in humans. And I'm interested to know what you guys think of the balance between our intense desire for self-determination and freedom with our desire to choose good leaders and to be led. Because we as people, we all need to remember that the majority of us follow. I would say everyone follows, actually, to different degrees. But the beauty of that realization is, you know, if you know you're a follower, if you know that you follow, then you are empowered to make the right decision, right? To decide who you want to follow, who you want to put your productivity behind. So how do you think we balance our desire for self-determination with a structured society? Because obviously, like, an anarchy is not the answer. I'm not advocating for an anarchy. Yeah. And frankly, like, we talk about leadership. There's this beautiful balance in the middle where you have just enough order and just enough chaos that, you know, it's this fine line. I mean, Frank Herbert in the Dune novels calls it the golden road. The golden road, yeah.
I was gonna say,
and
I thought you were gonna say the golden mean, which is that's the same almost. Yeah, okay, all right.
And Jordan Peterson's spoken about this in 12 Rules for Life as well, about like the yin and the yang, the two dragons of order and chaos. Too much order, you know, this is dictatorial authoritarianism. Too much chaos is just, I mean, a complete disaster. So how do you think that we move forward as a species to find that balance?
Two things that I can think of now. Why do we follow? Okay, let's say we assume that we all follow to some extent in some various domain, right? Mm-hmm. Why do we follow? The two things that I can think of, there may be others, please add, are competency and comfort. Wow. The two C's, competency and comfort. So why would we, okay, let's say competency. I do not know how to lead a state. That's why I should vote for a government, because I do not know how to do it. Okay? And why would I follow? Because it's comforting and less stress, right? I do not know how to do X. I'll leave it to this guy. I'll sit back and, chill out.
Yeah.
Okay? So those are two things that I think are why we follow. Why is that relevant? I had it in my head.
Well, no, I think it's relevant because if we understand why we have a desire to follow alongside our desire for self-determination, that is actually the golden road. That is actually the path through. Like if we recognize the two and can somehow find that happy medium.
There you go.
And
yes.
I will say, I love what you've brought up here. I think also what needs to be considered with like your competency point on like the macro scale, we live in a universe that we didn't create. So we're all searching for understanding and looking for leadership, I think, is looking for answers and looking for direction in a world that we understand so little about. So, but yeah, anyways, I've spoken enough. Please, Arshia, Perry.
In my opinion, okay, this is what I've observed with the people that have longer family trees and know where their families go back to. They become, like, they have some values that goes from the father to the son and to the daughter to the son, and it goes for generations of knowledge and experience. And then let's be real, we are mostly our parents, except the little parts we change.
Yeah.
So if we do that, we put our legacy, maybe a family, maybe a startup, maybe whatever.
Startups.
If we create the roots that and the main belief system, I think it will be better and better and better by time, like how you train data.
Yeah, sure.
So it's like save the data in a system. It's basically like that. When you have a system, when you start a system and you have your family or your startup or whatever you're starting. Why are you laughing?
No, not at all. I love where you're going with this. Are you basically saying like tradition is the history of our iterative process?
Yes, exactly.
All right, thanks, Julian. That's a good summary. All right.
No. Just like I love that. I hadn't thought of that, but you're completely right. Like, families, but then societies, like we're all determined. And actually, I hadn't thought of this, but yeah, tradition is just our iterative learnings. And as time goes on, we go, oh, okay, that didn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, brilliant. And so that's how you think we find that balance, is to kind of hold that foundation,
when you train data, at final, you find the optimum point.
Yeah, okay.
So I think that's the way, is like experience longer and save the data.
Yeah.
From long generations and
So regarding the freedom and self-determination, I wouldn't say there's like a balance or yin yang or something like that. I think we have periods like of having like chaotic times and times that we need to act as, by we I mean like governments need to dictate something for, yes, because we talked about this. Sometimes dictatorship is a better choice for a short,
more efficient
for
sure.
a short timeline. By the way, it's not like I'm not advocating for dictatorship, not now. but
yeah, let's make that clear. No one here is advocating for dictatorship.
But for some, like sometimes, because to get people to do something, we have to have some sort of structure.
Yeah, for sure.
And sometimes to have that kind of creativity, we need that freedom and self-determination. So I wouldn't say it's like, it doesn't happen at the same time. It's just different periods.
Yeah, so natural cycles, you think. All right, okay.
That's what I think.
So, I mean, Daniel, you brought up the two Caesars to like why we follow. But how do you think that we hit? Because obviously, I don't disagree. It's we definitely go through cycles. Like historically speaking, I sent that article. I'm not sure how many of you I sent it to, but the John Bigot Glubb article about the fate of empires. And I mean, if I've not sent that to you, I will. I'm a big fan of this essay, but you've read it, Perry. Not yet.
Nope.
Have I sent it to you?
I don't think so.
Okay. Sorry, I've
I think
sent
you've
it to
already
different
sent
people.
it to me. Yeah.
Fine. But yeah, he talks about cycles. In empires of like conquesting and then the period of prosperity and then the decline and fall through the age of intellect and stuff. It's brilliant. But because I think the important thing is that we push for that balance to prevent that swing happening in too drastic a way.
So if there's too much determination and no
order. No order. Like,
then
obviously that's an anarchy or as close to. But how do you think that we balance that?
The order and the discipline thing. I mean, what comes to mind is I'd like to share that the way our nervous systems are wired is that we are oriented towards a goal. Mm-hmm. I think Peterson talks a lot about this, and we sort of strive for that goal. Doesn't matter what it is, like why are we here?
Yeah,
it's for our goals, whatever. So we got to understand how much can we do ourselves.
Yeah,
with our determination, and also even if we think, oh, I can't do this, determination will take you a long way. Like perseverance, oh my goodness, will take you a long way. I remember there was I was listening to someone else. She was like the former CEO of IBM. Forgot the name.
Former CEO
of IBM. Anyways, and she was like most successful, or most people quit right before they were about to be successful.
Yes, I've
Virginia
heard of
Rometty, right?
Again?
Virginia Rometty.
Yes, that's the one. Yeah. So she was like, most people quit right before, like the event before they're about to succeed. I mean, we cannot verify that, but it seems to be the case. If you just keep showing up, and like perseverance will take you a long, long way. That's actually probably now a skill. As silly as it sounds, right?
It's difficult. Perseverance is, again, I think it's the small decisions that we've talked about, because like if you've made unsustainable decisions prior to that critical point, like you won't know how to persevere. But if every time before that you have pushed and you've pushed and you've pushed, then all it is just another small decision. And if it's just another small decision to push forwards, completely. Yeah. It's a skill.
And having a clear goal, not like a absolute, like you know everything about it, but you know some things and you want to push towards that.
Yeah.
A mission.
Yeah.
I cannot stress that enough. Yeah. Like clarifying your goal again and again and again is super important. Every time I feel like I don't know how to make a decision, go back to clarifying your goals.
Exactly.
You can make a better decision.
Yeah. So you would know to what stuff to say no to. Like you can't be great at everything. So you have to have a goal and you have to know where you're going, and somehow, how do you say, put them all together and try to, like, somehow it should converge, you know, to that toward that goal, whatever you're doing.
Yeah. Okay, so if we can take in the bits that we've said, the iterative process, why we follow, and also carving our own way through determination. I think that's one way. So then I follow, like, the thing I just brought up, from about how our nervous systems are wired, like, towards oriented towards a goal, right? I didn't come up with that. I followed, I took in that info, and now I'm going to carve the way by spreading that information. So it's also finding that balance and knowing how you're going to push through that way, through that iterative process. So that's probably the best thing I can think of finding the balance.
So you mean an algorithm?
In a way, yes. I've been playing with that idea for some time. Are we familiar with Brian Johnson?
Yeah.
Not Liver King.
No.
No.
Are we talking about the longevity guy?
Yeah, longevity dude. He actually has some really good thoughts.
That guy.
So he was saying, so he was saying how we should pretty much like algorithmize.
Yeah.
I'll put that. It's not really a word yet.
Yeah.
Our decisions and certain decisions, like keeping our organs healthy. We would eat the food, measure the data from our organs. So that would be, he calls it talking to our organs, and then seeing whether they like it. So we should not make that decision, because if we were going to make the decision, we're going out and eating McDonald's, because I guess we've been manipulated or whatever, right? So we should just talk straight to the organs, cut out the crap, algorithmize it, and come up with those decisions. So we can focus on other decisions with us, put our mind to something better,
True.
right? But then again, I would push back and say we don't want to be a bloody robot, right? It's like,
no,
time to wake up, 9 a.m., 9:15, eat. Like, come on, you're not a robot,
That's
right?
not always a bad thing, though.
It's not a bad thing. It's a great thing. Our body loves routines.
Yeah.
So it's about finding the balance again. Because remember, you are human.
There is no balance there if you want to actually.
You'd lose creativity that way.
no,
Elon hasn't lost
no,
creativity.
but I do think there's a balance, because that pendulum has a swing, right? So even though it's constantly changing, it's in this perpetual state of flux. As there we are, Perry. I've learned to word. It's in a perpetual state of change.
Yeah.
You can still have like a balance in terms of like how far you let it go either way. And I think
But balance for what?
balance for everything, because like you're saying, you can. I think the idea of an algorithm is brilliant for life, for many applications, but not for everything. Like many applications, it's really helpful to think about like your input and your output.
Yeah.
Right. What's going into the decision and the consequence that you're, aiming towards. But in other ways, like, we're not robots. So you have to balance a mathematical approach, a logical approach, and as we've discussed previously, your intuitive approach, because there are things that you can't describe that you feel, and we've discussed how important like that is, because you can't see air doesn't mean it's like not there. Just because you can't quantify a gut instinct doesn't mean that it actually doesn't mean anything. Like, it's there for a reason, whether or not it's our survival instinct or some instinct that's been programmed into us over many, many, many centuries, millennia. I don't know.
Yeah, so the two things that we have is following and autonomy, right?
Yeah.
Let's say, seems like, I don't know, I could be wrong, you're leaning towards an algorithm life. Great. Suppose we live a life just with algorithms. There's no autonomy. We're just following the algorithm and we're just going, wake up, do this, do that.
May I add something to that?
Please push back.
That algorithm is for non-machine learning. Machine learning you can change algorithms by time. Like you can, reflecting and looking back to data and learning and doing again is a part of the algorithm.
So it's a self-learning algorithm.
Okay,
so it's
Yeah,
not like a
self-learn.
fixed coded base
Yeah.
thing.
That's good.
Just perpetual self-perfection, right?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
constantly looking to increase your efficiency,
Exactly.
increase your knowledge. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I mean, these machines that we're talking about, we created them. Like they are built off our experience. Like the fact that there's an input and an output, the fact that there's an action and a consequence is a reflection of us and the universe around us. Like these things that we're now able to look at and have such an immense impact on our day to day. It's incredible how similar they are and how they just mirror the reality that we live in.
So I think we can do a recap, and let's go for a recap.
Yeah,
20
sounds
seconds
good.
for each person.
Go for it.
20 seconds.
Most
Yeah.
important points. Daniel, how do you think we approach leadership today? What's your takeaway?
Of course, we can talk about values and aligning them with your goals. I think the last point was very valuable, actually. Just finding that balance, very vague term. But if you identify what your goals are and you understand your position, where you are, finding the balance of how to act in accordance to good moral actions, I think that is a really good way to orient yourself towards good leadership.
I'm going to go kind of biblical and say, put not your trust in princes. Know who you follow, but make sure that when you are choosing who you follow, that you are still making sure to retain your own reason, to maintain your own direction. Don't tie yourself completely to an identity. Don't abdicate your reason to that person's judgment. Make sure that you're balancing your own ability to self-determine with knowledge of your own limitations.
Barry.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's because I've been thinking about it for a while. My mind can't think in any other way. But I think one thing humanity should do is to be bold, go experience, learn from it, reflect, and again, do it better, and do that into generations because we don't live that long. And do that with companies, of course. We do that with everything. Do that with studying, do that with... and find the balance up there. Like, where is the optimum point?
Yeah.
Optimal point, yeah. That's it.
So I have to refer to something that Julian always says regarding leadership is ask where the funding comes from. That's a very important question. But I would say try to create things, add value to society. Even like small projects, just take the lead. And I don't think there is any balance, so I have to push back on that one.
That's
but
fair.
we can discuss it in another episode for sure. And always remember, the next superpower won't be a country. It will be a person with an AI army. Yeah, that's something. That's the takeaway.
It's a good point to finish on. I will. Yeah, no, it's a good point to finish on. I want to add just one last thing, which hasn't been said, but I think is actually very important when we discuss leadership.
Yeah.
To lead is to serve.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think all leaders, no matter whether or not you're leading a country or you're just parenting, you need to remember that to lead is to serve.
Exactly. Also remember to watch the first episode as well if you haven't watched
Absolutely.
it. Subscribe. Do you see these lights? We have to pay for them, so we need
And probably
kind of
change them
support.
at some point.
Yeah, change them as well. And I guess we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.